Since the early days of IT, organizations had to adapt to continuous technological evolution, to ever-increasing legislation, and to a variety of methods and practices. To better understand the application of these practices, I want to put these practices into perspective. We'll start the series with the historical overview of the evolution of practices. A bit over a century ago, Henry Gantt introduced a technique for scheduling tasks that is still very actively and widely used, the Gantt chart. During the Manhattan Project, the critical path method was developed to calculate which tasks determine the duration of a project. This technique was documented and published a decade later, in 1950. In the Polaris program, the program evaluation and review technique was used to plan for variances based on optimistic and pessimistic estimating. In 1985, in the early days of the then character-based personal computer, Microsoft Project was introduced based on these techniques. Today, MS Project is still widely used for scheduling and still based on the same underpinning calculation techniques developed early and mid last century. In 1970, Pandata published a method developed by AXO, the Dutch Post and Telecoms PTT and a Dutch insurance company NN, called the System Development Method, SDM. In a 500-page book, all the steps from start till the end of a project were described in good detail. Later this type of approach would be referred to as Waterfall Method. In that same year, Winston W. Royce published in the US an 11-pager with his personal view on system development, basically similar to SDM. In this first version of SDM, the functional and technical design were distinguished. You would not start the technical design before the functional design was finished. In 1987, the second version of SDM was released. In this version, the major change was that instead of working from a functional design to a technical design, it was more top-down, starting with a high-level design and then elaborating into one or more detailed designs. This change was driven by the insight that high-level choices depend on feasibility and costs of the solutions, and that these choices should be presented earlier in the project. Worth mentioning is that most people nowadays have never worked with either SDM or SDM2 as a framework. So when people refer to waterfall methods, they probably refer to proprietary company guidance and policies. In 1976, the Dutch professor Nysens introduced a method based on data modeling. His idea was that once the data was modeled, a generic conceptual information process would manage the data. No further software needed. Though this idea has not yet made it, NIAM has greatly contributed to data analysis and modeling. The British Michael Jackson published Jackson System Development in 1983. An approach based on problem solving and logic that was very suitable for procedural languages like COBOL. From a different angle, testing, Society published the first version of the test management approach TeamUp in 1995. Differentiating the different types of tests herein has been widely adopted. Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland published a paper on Scrum in 1995, based on the Harvard Business Review article of Hirotaka Takeuchi and Ikujiro Nonaka nearly 10 years earlier. The lightweight framework called Scrum for iterative incremental software development is based on self-managing teams. In that same year, Dynamic Software Development Method, DSDM, bridged between more detailed guidance of waterfall approaches and the iterative development of agile methods. The DSDM introduced Moscow prioritization. Extreme programming in 1996 became popular for paired programming, like user interface design with a developer and user together behind the computer screen, and prototyping. The Rational Unified Process, RUP, is an elaborate iterative method published in 1998 and revolved around the Unified Modeling Language UML to visualize use cases. From a run and maintain perspective, the Information Technology Infrastructure Library, ITIL, has emerged in 1989 as a pragmatic set of practices on how to run IT. ITIL initially provided guidance on basic IT processes like incident and change management, and evolved later to a full service lifecycle as of version 3. Application management derivatives from ITIL are Application Services Library, ASL, and Business Information Services Library, BISL. Control Objectives for Information and Related Technology, COBIT, is a very comprehensive overarching process framework for governance and management of the IT, which includes risk management, security and compliance objectives. On generic project management, there are two popular and basically complementary frameworks. The American Project Management Body of Knowledge, PMBOK, which provides hands-on guidance on how to manage a project, and the British Projects in Controlled Environments, PRINCE, which provides guidance on what needs to be catered for. Both PMBOK and PRINCE2 have evolved over the years and published revised editions. To conclude this episode, a few observations. The first observation is that basically all of these practices and methods have emerged in a period between the coming of the PC and the coming of the internet. Hardly surprising, as this was the period where IT was evolving and booming. Second observation is that despite references to waterfall methods, there's only one waterfall method in this overview, SDM. In the upcoming episodes, more on the purpose of practices. Stay tuned. Thank you for watching.